improve SNAP, after which he and I will have a discussion and Q&A, and then our panel of experts featuring Robert Rector, Jason Turner, and Angela Rashidi will offer analysis and commentary. Mr. Conaway represents Texas' 11th Congressional District. He is the chairman of the House Committee on Ag and is serving his 7th term in the United States House of Representatives. Prior to becoming Agriculture Committee chairman, Mr. Conaway served as chairman of the House Ethics Committee and held leadership roles in 2 agriculture subcommittees. After conducting a top-to-bottom review of SNAP in efforts to strengthen the program for individuals and families in need of temporary assistance, he has made SNAP reform a priority. We are delighted to have him here today to discuss the committee's efforts. Mr. Conaway.
I'm not sure the OSHA guys believe in that gap there on the deal. How many folks
I don't want you to fall.
Exactly. Well, thanks, everybody. Robert, thanks for having me this morning. I appreciate that. Good to be with you. I'll make a couple of comments real quickly. I think the better spent time would be fleshing out some of the questions that you have. Most of you have seen now, after this bill's been out there about a month, most of those individual details. The goal was to put out the best policy we could. We started the review 3 years ago, ignoring the costs of the program, looking at just what works, what doesn't work, where the moral hazards associated with the program. How can we craft the very best policy we have, knowing, of course, that every policy has to be scored. You always have to figure out what it costs. But we didn't want to skew that, what we're looking at policy-wise, with those costs until the appropriate time. Because if you can put the best policy forward, then when you try to figure out whether you can afford it or not, if you cannot afford it, then at least the adjustments you make to the policy is toward a goal, toward that end game, and that's where we started. I told Robert a while ago, this is the first time in Congress, since I've been in Congress for 13 plus years, where the policy has driven the product unrelated to a skewing as a result of CBO scoring. If you look at our tax bill we do, every tax bill has got to squeeze into a particular dollar amount, and that adjusts the policy to something that might not make the most sense. Well, this time, the score showed that it was deficit neutral, which is what we'd committed to do, and it made that bring it forward. The path to prosperity is paved with hard work and a good job, period. And that's what we want to try to get to. We want to help families. We want to have an impact on the lives of people. The number of folks on SNAP, important, of course. The amount of money we spend on SNAP, important, of course. But what I'm looking for is that success story was shared to us by a young woman at one of our 4 listening sessions that we held across the country. Stood at a microphone, very bravely, stood at a microphone and said, "I'm the reason SNAP needs to stay in place." She said, "I was a single mom, 18-year-old single mom of a daughter of a 3-year-old. And I did not like my future. And I wanted to go to college. I wanted something better for my daughter and I. And SNAP and our other programs, my hard work, sweat equity, got me through college, got that first teacher's job, got a master's degree. She's now in administration. And now for her and her family, public assistance is defined by what she and her daughter do for other people, not what's done for them." That's the success we want. That's the end result we want. That should be our yardstick of where we want to take all of these programs. But the narrow one I've got jurisdiction over is SNAP. That's the success we want to drive. And we think these reforms that we put in place will actually do that and have the kind of impact that's important. SNAP is an important program for the beneficiaries as well as for taxpayers. And so our goal was to make it better, focus it more on work, focus it on the impacts, positive impacts it can have on families. Long-term dependence on public programs of any kind is not a part of the American dream that I'm familiar with. And I don't think anybody out there believes that as well. So this idea is to get folks back on their own 2 feet, on that ladder of success, on-ramp to prosperity, on-ramp to opportunity, whatever phraseology you want to use, that's where we're headed with this program. And so with that, Robert, let's just go to questions and see what everybody wants to talk about.
Conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So, the first question I want to ask you about concerns this issue of work. You know, a lot of people on SNAP do work.
Yep.
And some are seniors, and some have disabilities, and some are children. But there is a category of recipients who are not working and report no earnings. And tell us how you envision the work expectation or work requirement being implemented for those households.
Well, we have work requirements now. We've had them all along. They've just been honored in the briefs, basically. We got the entire state of California is on a work waiver. 3.9% unemployment. Last time it was at 4.1%, 2001. The SNAP enrollment was 17 million people. Today, we're still over 40 million. We've not doubled the population of the United States. So there's a disconnect in that regard. 2/3 of the folks that in the work-capable group don't work. There are reasons why that's happening. And so our dual path, in effect, would be work 20 hours a week, and as long as you're working, if you're still under the caps, then we're going to help you. We're going to go shoulder to shoulder with you. The other path is for states to decide what their work-capable population needs versus the jobs that are in those states, the skill sets that are necessary, case management, assessments, whatever it takes to figure out just what is it that's causing you, Robert, not to be able to be employed. Why are you not working? What is it that's going on in your life that we can try to adjust? Now, we don't have responsibility for child care and all the other things that are out there, but that caseworker does have access to broader issues within the community. And so bringing that entire holistic, so to speak, approach to this issue driven by federal dollars to support the state's responsibility to make this program work. So they would be in a work program, they would be in a supervised job search, they would be getting a GED, vocational training, subsidized employment, volunteer. There's a wide variety of aspects of the training piece run by the states, no new programs, but run by those states that we think is the right way to go.
So just to press on that a little bit, the phrase work requirement, if the activity is broader than just a job, you could fulfill the requirement by training and education or something else for some amount of time.
Absolutely. The states will have 2 years to come up with their plan on how to address their work-capable population, 18 to 59, with the resources that they know that they'll have available. We've got 10 pilot projects that came out of the 14th Farm Bill that will come to fruition during that time frame. They can look at those. They already know what they need to do. Most argue that they're underfunded and getting that done. And so I have much more confidence in our state governments than some of my colleagues do in terms of being able to deploy these assets properly, make it happen the way they want to. I hear this argument all the time. Well, it's X number of dollars per person. That is classic Washington, D.C., one-size-fits-all nonsense. And it makes good theater, good conversation among the elites. But the truth of the matter is that's not what a state has to do. They're not going to be relegated to spending exact amount of money on each person. Every person is going to be different. Whatever their needs are going to be different. So they'll be able to tailor these programs, and they're going to work with existing NGOs, existing providers throughout this country, throughout the state. Texas is a big state. In all likelihood, there'll be, we've got regional development processes going on that they'll be able to take access to. But each state will come up with a plan themselves. USDA will approve it. And then we'll move forward on this plan.
I'm going to come back to the states in a minute, but I want to pursue this question one further a little bit about the individuals receiving assistance. I served on the congressionally appointed National Hunger Commission, and one of the things we found was that there were a lot of people who were recipients of SNAP but had no other income in the household and were food insecure. But on the other hand, a lot of people who combined work and forms of assistance were less likely to be suffering from worries and concerns about where their next meal was going to come. Isn't it, to some extent, the idea of getting people into work is part of an effort to reduce hunger?
Well, absolutely. I mean, families who are making their own resources have a better selection of what they want to, food is one of those essentials that they're going to spend money on, shelter, food, and there are obviously those two keys. And so, yes, I think where's the study that shows that unemployed, non-working folks are better off than someone with a job, someone going to work every day, making their own money, maybe not enough to get above the threshold, and they're still getting SNAP, they're still getting these other assistance, but aren't those families better off throughout that entire spectrum? And the answer is yes. And so moving it that direction. Quick story. Early 90s, I was involved heavily in things going on in Midland County, Texas, raising a lot of money for United Way and all that kind of stuff. We commissioned a needs assessment for the county. Broken down the county and your neighborhood as well. What are those needs? When you parsed, and this was a statistically sound study done, and so what were the top 10 needs within your community, within your neighborhood, et cetera? 9 of 10 would have all been positively impacted by someone with a job. 9 out of the top 10 needs. And so that's not any different than it is today. Folks are just better off when they're working, when they've got a job, than when they're not.
So when states say, who run the SNAP program, which has been totally devoted to ensuring people are enrolled in a rapid fashion, that now you're telling us to do something else, to worry about work. When they say that's too much for us or we can't do it, what's your answer?
Well, find somebody else in the state to run your programs. I don't expect that to come out of folks rationally, but just look at us and say, those federal dollars are just of such little importance that we're not going to put the effort to try to figure out a plan that would make that happen. They already have existing job training programs within the state, or most states that I'm aware of do. This will augment that. This will help fulfill the spending side of that number. And so this argument by some that, well, it's just too hard, our states aren't capable, they're just inadequate. Horse feathers. They are not. Our founding fathers believed that the states were the incubator of all our good ideas, and so I trust our states to make this happen.
So, conservatives talk about two things in social policy. We talk a lot about work and the importance of a job as being the best path out of poverty. We also talk about family. And it's not just us. Liberals and Democrats do too, recognizing that marriage matters and two-parent households really do help to raise children more successfully. Does this proposal do anything on the family front or marriage front to improve the chances that households will have two active and involved parents in their lives?
Well, certainly for families with children under 6, one of the parents gets to stay home with that child and do that. But that child also gets to see that other parent going to work every day. And there's a value that. I grew up in a family where my dad was a roughneck, blue collar to the core. And I watched him get up every day, go to work. Some days he would not come home because he was doing a double shift and would work 16 hours instead of 8. And so that's the tape I had running in my head as to what a dad looked like. Dad went to work, took care of the folks. And so having that the primary breadwinner go to work every day, I think is valuable for kids to see that. But the short answer is no. I don't believe we have marriage penalties. For one thing, work is not, in my view, considered a penalty. Taking care of yourself, making your own money, making your own decisions, getting yourself to a point where you're self-sufficient is a goal, and there aren't penalties, in my view, along that way. But certainly none of us want to discourage the family unit. There's enough discouragement of the family unit in the broader array of our country today. One of the reasons why our country's got such a moral decline that I believe you see across this country is the breakup of the nuclear family, the breakup of that the mom and the dad and the children and all the Ozzie and Harriet kind of Donna Reed show kind of stuff. I'm dating myself. There's some young millennials in here. Who's he talking about? But that idea that, and it's just so I don't want to do anything to hurt that any further because our nation's on a rapid decline with that regard as well.
So you made no effort. Well, actually, I won't say that. You've done some things on nutrition in the bill, and some things you chose not to do. Tell us a little bit about nutrition, reductions in obesity, better, healthier diets.
So we had a great hearing one day on restrictions or choices. Actually, one of the better hearings we've had in Congress because go get that script from the hearing, take the names off, and I dare you to figure out who's the Republican and who's the Democrat. It was the darndest thing. I heard guys on both sides that totally unexpected the sides they took. And we also had a grocer in the middle trying to, hang on, I got to get folks through the deal. My personal opinion is that the more decisions you make on somebody's behalf, the more crippled they become, the more dependent they are on you. And so we're trying to break that dependency. So we've put incentives in the bill that says if you'll buy fruits and vegetables and dairy, your dollars will go further. We'll have, I suspect, a conversation with folks who want to restrict SNAP purchases to some from certain products. Right now, the big emphasis on sugar drinks. Big emphasis, well, anything that's got more than 10 grams of sugar in it, you shouldn't be able to buy with SNAP. Well, that would include a 10-ounce jar of orange juice. It has 28 grams of sugar. And so when you start drawing that line, that's when it gets really difficult. Minnesota, I'm told Minnesota ran a program where they banned candy bars. They had a waiver to ban candy bars, which, unless the candy bar had wheat in it. Well, guess what? They grow a lot of in Minnesota, a lot of wheat. So your Hershey bar was out, but your Twix or Kit Kat was in. So when you start drawing these lines about this and start trying to make decisions for other people, it gets really complicated. And we've got a grocery store system out there that makes no money when people stand in line trying to ferret out what they're doing. So I'm in favor of incentivized choices, but there are lots of folks out there who have difference of opinion, and this is one of those deals where the House will work its will, and I'll have my vote.
So just to press a little bit, I have to. I used to work for Michael Bloomberg. He was a big believer in helping people make better choices, even by making the choices for them. I recognize that. But what about a test? What about allowing USDA to let a state experiment with a restriction?
Oh, they have that authority now. If they wanted to run some state, thought they had the kind of support for it within the state-based model that they wanted to test that. In fact, that's probably a better, rather than going whole hog, if that's what they want to do, if they want to restrict, rather than going all in right off the bat, probably the better path would be to run some tests of scope, not some narrow things, but there's a test of scope to make sure that it worked. But yeah, that would be the path. If you're going to go there, that would be a better path than just going all in all at once.
Coming back to work for a moment, the economic issue that's under discussion is that we have very low unemployment and still pretty high or pretty elevated, not high enough labor force participation. There's still a group of Americans who are on the sidelines, not looking for work, not in work, and could be working. Is SNAP a part of that problem?
I don't think so. One of the benefits are relatively modest, and so if folks have other choices, I think they're going to make those. But what we set up with our bill is a choice. We're going to help you with SNAP benefits, but if to do that, and you're 18 to 59, not physically mentally disabled, not a caregiver of a 6-year-old or younger, then here are the things you need to do to get that, to earn that benefit in effect. That may be a poor phrase, but nevertheless to qualify. Work for 20 hours a week or participate in this program. If you decide, those benefits are just not worth it, I don't want to mess with that, it's too hard enough, whatever, then this is America. We're going to let you make that choice for yourself, and I'm not going to force SNAP on anybody who doesn't want to meet these requirements. And we've got, the states will have 15% of their work-capable group to be on a waiver at any one point in time, so they can manage the broken arms and the transition between one job to the next and all those things that you hear people talk about. I got great confidence that the state can manage that process on an individual basis, because you're going to be talking to folks individually and not as a mass, as a group. So I just, if they're outside the workforce and they don't want to get back in, I can't put the I want to help myself into somebody. I can get there with you. If you want to help yourself, I can help you. But I don't have any way to put the I want to help myself into somebody that doesn't want to help themselves.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that about people that will make a choice on their own. In the TANF experience, in the experience with welfare reform 20 years ago, the implementation of a much stricter work requirement, much more elaborate and much longer hours, and more restricted activities, did lead to a lot of people saying, you know what, I think I can just take care of this myself. Right. And their earnings went up and their poverty status went down. Right. So there will be some of that if you implement a program.
Sure.
So let's talk about the politics of it, Mr. Chairman. Do you have the votes in the House?
There are politics in this?
Yeah. Do you have the votes in the House?
I'll have to go check stuff out. I got to ask my team why they hadn't mentioned that to me before today.
Do you have the?
We'll find out. We're running straps this week. I've got a conference today with the Republicans. I'll have another one tomorrow. I'm meeting with various splinter groups within our Republican conference to talk to them about what's happening, and then we'll whip it at some point this week, I hope, and then we'll be able to move forward. But running numbers or counting noses, so to speak. We've just started the point where people have enough information to know what they're going to do. Up until this point in time, it's like, well, I don't know enough. Okay, I got all that. The education piece is still going on, and we hope to start honing in on what our number is toward the end of the week.
If the Senate doesn't go as far as you, or doesn't go at all anywhere with regard to work requirements, and the bill comes back to the House with a lot of the reforms you've proposed out of it, what are you going to do?
I'm anxious to have that conversation with our Senate colleagues about why they're against work, and how they'll say they're not. I mean, nobody says they're against work. I can't find one of my Democrat colleagues who'll argue no about the work process, but then they come from some convoluted narrative that gets them to a no on actually forcing folks to work. So having that broader conversation with our Senate colleagues is going to be, I welcome that, to have that, because work requirements, 70% approved among Democrat voters, 95% among Republican voters. You've seen the numbers from 60 to 95, so the number of approval on this issue is there. Anytime you get to a 75% approval rating on something, then I think there's pressure would mount on the Senate to get something done. My colleague, Pat Roberts, will get a bill done. He's got a whole different path than I do with the 60-vote threshold. He has to have Democrats. I got that. So I'll trust Pat to do what he needs to do over there. I want to get as good a bill out of the House as I possibly can, and then the normal conference process that goes on will take place. But I want to get the best bill out of the House I can. That's where my focus is right now.
It's not just Democrats and Republicans that like efforts to help people get into employment. We did a survey that was oversampled low-income Americans who said that they expected programs that provided assistance to help them get a job. Right. SNAP doesn't do that right now.
My frustration with where the Democrats on the committee and broadly in the House are right now is I can't get them to engage on what it is about the program they don't like specifically. Do they not like the fact that we've increased the asset test to more rational numbers? Do they not like the fact that we allow a family to accumulate $2,000 in cash that doesn't count against them? Do they not like the fact that we moved that value of an automobile up to $12,000? Do they not like the fact that, I mean, what is it that they don't like other than they don't like it because Conaway did it, whatever? I couldn't get them to engage at our markup. They just sat back and spent 5 hours, spewing forth all this stuff that didn't make any sense. So hopefully, when the Senate gets their deal done and we get the House, House gets theirs done, then in that conference committee we can work out some of these things to figure out exactly what is it that you don't like about what I'm doing. Because I am not naive or arrogant enough to believe that the bill that I got out of committee the other day is what the president's going to sign. That had never happened in the history of what's going on. There are always changes. There are always modifications. There are always things we can do better, things that we can do the same, but do it in a way that gets somebody to agree to vote yes. All of that horse trading is in front of us, and looking forward to making that happen. But the core of what we want to do is dramatically supported by most Americans, and it's the right thing to do in my mind, and we'll keep fighting.
Two more quick questions, and then we'll go to the audience. The first one, you went by the asset test quickly.
Right.
Do you want to just tell, what did you do on asset test?
Well, the asset test, numbers are hardwired into the law, and it was set in 1977. We moved that, inflated those numbers through just a normal, I've got a terrific chief economist who knows how to inflate numbers to today's values. So we ran that number up to today's values. Same thing on the car. A $12,000 car looks to be like the kind of car that'll get folks to and from work on a regular basis versus the $4,650 car. So we wanted to make that. The $2,000 in cash that's accumulated, every family out there ought to have a cash accumulation that gets them through that unexpected circumstance, because folks live in paycheck to paycheck. The food budget is where the mom has to flex. If something goes bad during the month, unexpected, her house payment doesn't change, her car payment doesn't change, has to come out of her food budget, then that means toward the end of the month, kids are eating the cheapest calories, not the best calories. And so allowing a family to accumulate $2,000 is just good, personal financial management, family management, before that counts against your asset test. So another positive experience to try to get these families onto their own 2 feet, so that when they get that leap up, the higher income levels and everything else, that they're ready to stay there and keep moving forward.
But right now states can waive the asset test entirely. Are you also saying we're going to raise it, but also say it can't be waived?
We're going to enforce it. Okay. Yeah. We all get killed with these anecdotes back home about, somebody will come up to you and say, hey, I saw this guy use a SNAP card. He walked out and got in an Escalade. I can't drive an Escalade, but somehow this SNAP guy does. Well, that's because the asset tests are being ignored. And the other thing we did that just drove some folks crazy is that under the way you compute SNAP, you get a standard utility allowance, which reduces your income, increases SNAP benefit. And all we're asking is that you prove to us that you pay utilities of some amount to some utility company. Because if you're getting the housing deduction that includes your utilities, you shouldn't double dip with a utility allowance. And for some reason, my guys, the folks on the other side, just thought that was the worst thing ever. They would actually ask somebody to prove they're paying utilities in order to get the standard utility allowances. So anyway, that's the kind of things we're doing. On the program integrity side, which is keen to a lot of folks, right now I can't catch people who are qualifying for SNAP in 2 different states. I'm going to catch folks that are doing that. That's just wrong. We're going to flush folks off that make way too much money because we've ignored the how did you phrase it?
The earnings disregard.
Earnings disregard.
Yeah.
This guy talks well.
Yeah.
The earnings disregard. We're going to try to stop that as well. There's a lot of things happening on the program integrity side that we're going to do to enforce the rules. The rules are asset test 130. I want to treat every family in America exactly the same with respect to a federal program, and we don't have that today. We got all kinds of desperate ways families are treated, and I don't want to create incentives to move to another state because their SNAP benefits are better than where they're living right now. Now, I'm not opposed to them moving to where there's a job. Because again, getting back to my dad, roughneck. If the rigs are running in Borger, Texas, we lived in Borger, Texas. The rigs are running in Odessa, Texas, we lived in Odessa, Texas. Because my dad thought it was more important for him to have a job than necessarily where we live. So this idea that, I can only go to work right here in this one spot doesn't ring well with my personal background, and we all bring those personal biases to our decision-making process.
So you came back to work. I'm going to ask you one more question about work. So there's 40 million Americans, men, women, and children, who received SNAP or were in January of this year when the last report came out. A lot of kids, a lot of seniors, a lot of people with disabilities. Some people are working. You're imposing a work requirement. We estimated at AEI that you're proposing a work requirement for some portion of the caseload. You're proposing, sorry. And we estimate that there's about 9.5 million work-able recipients of the SNAP that are reporting no earnings that might be exposed to a requirement. Do you have a sense of how many out of the 40 million will have to comply with what you would like the states to put in place?
Well, we hope that all 9.5 million have to comply and have to work towards putting efforts to make their lives better. CBO's projection shows that about 1 million people will, over this next 10 years, be affected by this program and will come off of SNAP either by working and complying with this and coming off and getting better jobs, moving up, or they decide for themselves they want to do it. We can't parse out what that number is, which is, break that million out between the two. But, CBO does their best job they can, but when they projected what we're going to do in 2014, we're 112 billion under what CBO projected was going to happen at that point in time. Much of that is SNAP. We had 500,000 people come off of SNAP on January. Apparently the world didn't stop turning. The sun came up in the east again every single day, with 500,000 people coming off in 1 month. For whatever reasons those were, they came off, and I didn't hear any hue and cry out there about how terrible SNAP was in its existing format. So,
I think my point is that it is a big program, serves a lot of people. This requirement is not on the whole caseload. It's on
65% of SNAP recipients are over 60, under 18, mentally physically disabled. All those folks we're not messing with. They're going to always help. That's just who we are as Americans, who we are as Christians. We're just going to help folks that need help like that. But we're trying to focus on the 35% that should be doing more to help themselves and addressing why they're not able to make that happen on their own, with case management, assessments, all those kind of things that we're going to propose that states can then use to look at their individual folks.
Okay, let's open it up for questions and see what we have from the crowd. Right here.
Conaway, first of all, thank you for sharing your conversation with us.
Sure.
The work you do. My name is Doug Howard. I spent some of my career first with Iowa Governor Terry Branstad, implementing welfare reforms in the 90s, and went on to run John Engler's Human Services Agency in Michigan, continuing reforms. I appreciate the comments you made about states being incubators, which reminded me that one of the issues where I think states have been challenged in the ability to manage programs is actually flexibility in the service delivery structure. There are a number of governors who are talking about this. Lieutenant governors have written a letter. American Public
We need a question.
Services Association has written and said SNAP is the most restrictive program across those welfare programs in the ability to use private contractors, and they're asking for the opportunity to have the choice as states and governors to use it when they see fit. Yeah. Wondered if you had any comments.
That's the plan, to allow the state to come up with their own plan as to how to address that work-capable group vis-a-vis the jobs that they have or will have going forward. And so unleashing the states to be able to use existing resources within that state is the plan to make that happen. So they would have the opportunity to use private sector stuff. There's a major big box warehouse warehouse hardware store told me recently they're going to spend $50 million on a journeyman an apprenticeship program to transition veterans into trades, carpentry, plumbing, all those kind of things. And so they're going to be doing that. Now, obviously it's good for the vets, but it's also going to be good for their sales because they'll come back and buy the stuff. But it's the right thing to do. And so that would be a program that could then fold into whatever's happening within the state with that retailer. They could be using that program to help folks get to these issues. So my vision is to the states would have as much discretion as they could on how they implement the work training piece we're putting in place.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Ross Marchand, Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Mr. Chairman, you said earlier that the path to prosperity is paved with hard work and great jobs. But according to AEI and other estimates, the U.S. sugar program is costing tens of thousands of jobs and customers the upwards of $4 billion. So what can we do to stop the bleeding and modernize this program?
Shift into ag policy.
Do I? Yeah, I appreciate that. First off, I'm not sure that tens of thousands of jobs, I'm not sure where AEI, this one was a great example. AEI and I disagree vehemently on that part, but we're pretty much better off on this side, so we can talk about this without hating each other on the other side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
The sugar policy that we have in place has cost American taxpayers directly only 1 year out of the last 10. And that was the year 2013 when Mexico broke the rules, dumped sugar in our market, and caused the price of sugar to drop dramatically that year. Go back and look and tell me how much impact that dramatic drop had on the retail price of sugar for candy bars and sodas and all that stuff. All of that money, that differential, was kept by somebody, and it didn't go to the sugar farmer per se themselves. We wouldn't allow Turkey to dump steel into our market at below cost. Why would we allow another country to dump sugar at the below cost of production into our market? So the sugar program works. It's worked except for that 1 year. And I would argue that the price of sugar, and make sure we're talking the same product. That's that little white granular stuff that they give away for free in restaurants. So the retail price of sugar has not been skewed by this program to the extent that folks would argue, and it keeps American producers in business. The processors are owned by co-ops, or there are co-ops owned by the producers. And so do you want sugar grown in America, produced by Americans, that's trying to fight against unfair trade practices coming in from the rest of the world, or do you want to abandon ship and flush that part of production agriculture out of America, make us rely on foreign sources? And I'd rather not do that. We weren't going to do that with steel. We're not going to do it with aluminum. You've seen a president who wants to protect American jobs, and that's what basically the sugar program does.
Question? Yes, ma'am. Maybe the last one.
Thank you, Congressman Conway. My name is Rosa Rado with the National Conference of State Legislators. I was curious what you would tell the 10 states that have been implementing the pilot E&T programs that have yet to see the results of the evaluations and have yet to see that they work.
I couldn't hear you very well.
Pilot E&T in the last Farm Bill.
Right,
there
those 10 programs.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, the previous administration got them off to a really slow, dead walking start instead of a running start. So they're behind the curve on getting the results out there. However, we expect those results to be coming in over the next 2 years during the same time frame that states will be putting together their plans. And I've got great confidence that those results will be available to any state that wants to look at it to see if they want to cherry pick something out of a plan that worked and plug that into their deal. So I think they're coming together at the same time. I don't necessarily believe that you ought to wait till you get those all done and then start. We need to affect lives now, and I think our program will do that, and then we'll be able to harvest that $100 million investment that we made in those pilot projects out of the 14 Farm Bill can be harvested as a part of these plans that the states will put together.
One more, and then this will be the last one. If that's all right, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
Hi, Representative Conaway. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to hear from you directly. My name's Jordan Eunice. I'm from the USDA. I'm interested to hear you tell us a little bit more about the the states that use mandatory E&T programs compared to the voluntary E&T programs. Over the past about 8 years, we've had 10 more states switch from mandatory to voluntary programs. So given that states are incubators for these types of things, what have you learned from the states that have decided to make their programs voluntary, and what would make them be more on board with switching back to having more mandatory E&T programs?
Well, one, we're going to give them money, lots of money. Because of the way that we're going to fund this program. They're currently spending about $90 million a year on it. We're going to spend $1 billion a year on those training programs to make that happen. So with additional resources to be able to implement a broader spectrum, I think we'll have an impact. Great question. We'll take a look at that, but I think the money issue is a big difference between where we've been with states and STEP E&T training and those kinds versus where the vision we want to go forward with. Because we're going to, while it'll be a mandate, it'll be a funded mandate as opposed to the typically way we do things with unfunded mandates to require folks in states to do things. But I think the money associated with these programs moving forward will be a big difference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We'll take a little break and then have our panel in a second.